So only me. I would not touch crypto in a million years. Crypto.
The United States will be the crypto capital of the planet.
We're all together. We're all one.
Okay, where's the gold?
For the first time in the human race, we have unleashed a freedom virus.
Oh God, why are people listening to me? I'm just a guy.
Woohoo! Welcome everyone to the Top Signal Show. Excited to be here this week. Basically, everything we do on this show is breaking down the latest trends on crypto, new tools on OKX, and we're always bringing on some of the hottest guests in the space. I'm Elizabeth Olsen. I'm joined here by Kamsky, co-founder of Mood Labs. And quick disclaimer, everything on the show is for informational purposes only and reflects our guests' own views, not necessarily those of OKX. This is not financial advice. Crypto is risky, so always do your own research. Yeah, how's it going, chat? What's up? What's good?
Hi everyone, good to see you. I see the chats already popping off here. Some people are asking about some coins. I guess we'll get into the meme coin section a bit later. Give me a moment to catch my breath. I just came back from Abu Dhabi and Breakpoint. It was crazy. Honestly, it was such a nice conference. I can't wait to just debrief. I managed, as you can see, I'm like back in my usual setup. I managed to have a little, studio in my hotel room last week. I feel like it was kind of a vibe. But back with my Pokemon, so I'm really, really happy to be back. And I feel like we have a lot of news this week. We have a lot to talk about. So
Yeah, so much to break down this week. And I definitely have a lot of FOMO from Breakpoint. It's looked like a really amazing conference.
yeah,
And we were just
I
chatting
missed you.
earlier. You said it had like the perfect setup, like not too much happening, not too many side events, so you could easily plan your day, which I really appreciate for a conference. I feel like I'm always like having massive FOMO
Oh,
if I'm there.
yeah. It was good, honestly. And the weather is nice in Abu Dhabi, and there was like one big event, and I feel like there weren't that many sides to pick from. And also, everything was quite condensed in one area, which made it so easy to get around. Like, yeah, it was well done. I feel like and we're going to be talking about trends and prediction for next year. I think in terms of industry, where there's a bit of a event fatigue happening. And so we're seeing a lot of companies just sticking together. Of course, a lot of budgets were kind of cut due to the market right now, but at least we're going for more like curation, definitely better merch, and really putting effort into giving an experience to people, right? As opposed to having like massive, like a huge volume of things to do. So it was great. I met a lot of our community. We saw a lot of the Top Signal listeners. Big love to everybody that's been watching us for the last 7 weeks. It's been crazy. It's been so fun to do this all together. And especially when you get to meet people in real life that watch your show, there's no better feeling than that. So big love to everybody there. Big love to the chat that's showing up. Yeah, I see a lot of friends in the chat here. Big love to you guys.
Yeah, I have to say it was so fun also in Art Basel, just hearing people come up and say, "Oh, I'm watching your show, I'm listening in," and loving. A lot of people are like coming in through different guests that we bring on, and so that's one thing that I think is so fun is that by having guests from all different backgrounds, you get to really tap into all these different communities and people with all these different interests and niche parts of the crypto space. So, but of course, like today, we have an incredible guest coming on in just a few minutes. David Hoffman, who's been in the space for years. He's also incredible show host, one of the most prominent shows in the space period. It's like on board probably a generation of crypto people to the space.
Who hasn't watched Bankless?
Yeah, seriously. That was one of the first podcasts I remember watching when I was just getting into crypto and trying to figure out what is everything, what is going on. It was Bankless and the Pump podcast, I think, was what brought me in. How about yourself, Kamsky?
It was a friend.
Were you a big podcaster? Did that bring you in, or okay?
No, for me it was a friend that was from uni that was mining, and then other stuff which I will not mention here live.
Good one. Okay.
Yes, back to the market. Well, we're very far from when I entered, and I know that the sentiment's been like really bad lately. But if I think back to early days, or at least for my early days, where I think BTC was at like 2K, and seeing it now at 87, I know it's been going sideways and a little bit down. We've been having a correction right now. Let me share my screen. But if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed by, no, wait, not this screen. How do I change this? Okay. Here we go. You should be seeing my trading.
Yeah, it seems that we're seeing a lot of like clustering around that 83K price range for Bitcoin. And it all seems to be driven by this trust market mean, ETF cost basis, and 2024 yearly cost basis. So hopefully it sounds like if we don't keep reach this 86K barrier, this is like our first line of defense. As long as we're hovering above 86K, we shouldn't see this retesting of 80K opening back up. So hopefully we can hold on and keep pushing above 86K. I think it's pretty healthy.
Yeah, and if you feel overwhelmed, just look back and zoom out a little bit. It's definitely intimidating to be on a smaller time frame. Just remind yourself why you're here. Look at other assets as well. There's definitely still some move in the market, but it's been a little bit. It's been sideways. So a lot of people are wondering as well, is this the end of the 4-year cycle? Are we still, are these the fundamentals? Have they changed and so on? I guess we can talk about it later. I'm very curious what David thinks of this. And yeah, there's been quite a lot of news. We've obviously had, some rate changes. The Bank of Japan is expected to hike rates at a 0.75% on the 19th December. So like this Thursday and Friday. And then major drop 8% in part because Japan was raising their 2-year bond yield to a 17-year high. And so if the yen strengthens sharply post-announcement, expect risk of moves across crypto. I'm trying to I really find it hard to read live. It's like I just eat my words up. But anyway, it's just me making an effort, trying to
Yeah.
sound smart for you guys
No.
because you like the updates.
I like what you said about that though, Kamsi. Like, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day price action. But one quote I really loved over the weekend that I came across is the antidote to worry is perspective. And it's so important to just zoom out, look at these cycles, and just realize we're gonna make it. We're gonna get through this. And when you zoom out, you see crazy dips in the past and you see how things come back. So I think it's just important as we, go through this week, especially it looks like into the weekend, we're going to have a little bit of volatility. There's the US PCE inflation data price index that's going to be released. So it's basically like an inflation gauge, and it's looking like it's running around 2.8%, still well above 2% target. But if it comes in hot, it's quite possible that this is going to reduce any chance of a January cut. So, but if it softens, we might start seeing pricing in becoming more accommodating. So either way, there might be some volatility this weekend. This is dropping Friday morning US time right as Asian markets are closing. So apparently Powell's tone is hawkish, which means basically pretty spooked. Risk on assets are going to be a little bit not ideal. I feel like people are probably going to be more opposed to risk on assets when you're having a hawkish tone like this. But hopefully it won't be too volatile this weekend. So yeah, those are the three things to look out for: is Bitcoin hovering above 86K. If we break that barrier, we might be really threatening this 80K threshold. Also, Bank of Japan, keep an eye out for that this Thursday, Friday, and this Friday, keep an eye out for this PCE index release. But yeah, we're going to bring on David very soon. I think let's go ahead and jump into trenches real quick as well. I know there's been a lot. I feel like it's so fun, Kamsi. You were on the ground at Breakpoint. What were you hearing on the ground from people? I know Wet has had a 33% increase just today. So it seems people are super bullish on that team.
Week. I mean, I know that a lot of you come through our show to actually see our guests, but I do have to say that we've been actually making some pretty good calls. We don't make many, but the ones that we've called along the last few weeks have actually been doing all right and holding up. So you can see here, this is Wet. Wait, let me zoom out here. So this is the OKX DEX. Again, if you're not familiar with the platform, it's great. If you don't know what token this is, just go on the AI Insights. So again, this was a token from Humidify, and it's a Solana-based prop AMM protocol. So here you go. It did a little pump. Also, I always keep these from the past shows. So, obviously market hasn't been looking amazing, but there's still some coins that are holding up pretty well. This we went over last week. It's still alive. I'm so glad because you never know. What did we get? Yeah, 67 also still holding. I mean, it's not in the billions, but it's still holding at a 12 mil market cap. So it's not bad. Niche baby. I don't know how this is still alive. I'm so over this meme, but it's still holding there. So sorry, I don't know what's happening with this Zoom. Oh my God. Yeah. Anyways, there's a lot of noise here on the chart. Give me 1 second. Why is this doing? Okay. So as you can see, there's quite a few bubbles here. You can obviously remove all the stuff by just removing the markers. These are just interesting to see if you want to do a little bit of analysis on who's in there, who's tweeted about it. OKX really gives you a lot of information, and then you can see the vibe score. It's still pretty high. Yeah, pretty impressive, honestly, given conditions. I mean, we're at 800K. It's not huge, but for right now, I feel like we need to lower expectations. And also one of the things that was talked about a lot during Breakpoint in the last 2 weeks was that we're actually moving to a more sort of rather than speculative market and industry more towards infrastructure. Obviously, crypto markets need to converge with traditional finance, and if they don't do so, there will be a bit of a problem, right, for crypto as a whole and blockchain tech. This is kind of like the main narrative that, or at least the main point of discussion that people brought up, is that this needs to now be integrated, and for chains to stay relevant, they need to be able to execute and provide speeds. And it's not so much towards that, but it's really to really enable this economic activity, including payments. There's a lot of talk about like crypto cards being like really hot. We saw CAS having huge momentum. Soulflower was giving out cards. Crypto.com is also pushing their card again. So there's a lot of talks about payments, about AI. Bitcoin miners are actually shifting and deciding to dedicate their computing part to actually AI rather than mining. So that's also interesting. I wonder what you say about this. Is this a problem for Bitcoin? I kind of want to dig into that. If anybody knows, please let us know. Maybe we can talk about it on our next episode. We can get a Bitcoiner back.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. You were saying like, how do we stay relevant? Things with like stable coins, like, is that going to, are we ever going to see that consolidate over from MasterCard, Visa? Are we going to see like dollarizing countries? And I think one trader I was talking to over the weekend, he was like, "Oh, I love being able to trade equities on chain. This is probably the best use case for crypto right now, is trading equities on chain 24/7, trading them outside when the market's closed."
But that's
I feel like
that's also because crypto is not the strongest asset right now. Like if crypto was the strongest, I would be trading crypto. Now, the only problem with that, in my opinion, is that fees are way too high. I think there was some news of Interactive Broker actually doing something with crypto, but I was driving and it was like don't quote me on this because I have no clue what it was saying, but I saw Interactive Broker and crypto. I will dig into this news later. But the thing is, right now for equities, the fees are too high. I'm sorry, it's just like too expensive to do that. Anyway, I know that we need to bring David on.
Yes.
News
yeah, let's bring David up on stage. I'm sorry to cut you off, but today we're joined by David Hoffman, co-founder of Bankless, one of the most influential media brands in crypto. David's been at the center of on-chain movement for years, helping onboard millions to understand DeFi, Ethereum, and what it means to be bankless. And you've shaped how builders, investors, and institutions think about the future of money. And you've really had a front row seat at so many things happening in Web3. So yeah, David, welcome to Top Signal.
Thanks for having me on, guys. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, I think it's so funny. You were telling me that just earlier before the show, you were saying you almost had a show called Top Signal.
Yeah. It was a fun extra like content that we did on weekends at Bankless, and we just called it Top Signal. It lasted maybe like half a year.
I love that. I feel like it's very much aligned with how we think of the show. Is like we don't take ourselves too seriously here. We love just to have a easy flow conversation. We love bringing on the chat as well, just being part of the discussion. And but yeah, no, it's so good to have you here. And also, happy holidays very soon.
Happy holidays, yeah.
You have anything fun planned?
December is the best month, yeah. Technically, my birthday tomorrow, so I get to
enjoy my
birthday in the middle of the holidays, which is the best time to have a birthday.
Happy birthday! Well, as an adult, I feel like you get to celebrate. Maybe as a kid, a little bit traumatic.
For me, my holidays just come a little bit earlier than everyone else's.
That's nice. Well,
yeah, as long as you're throwing like a banger. A holiday birthday party.
Yeah.
Good.
We're glad to celebrate an early birthday, and we have we've been actually looking forward to having a bit of a prediction for next year kind of show, and this feels special. I mean, you obviously have one of the most iconic crypto shows and beyond crypto out there with you on board so many people, as we were saying earlier, and I feel like you just give off just great vibe. So it's fun to have you on. We're super happy to have you here. How did you create Bankless? What's the origin story?
Yeah, I got into crypto in 2017, and I really felt at a loss as to like how to work, how to contribute to crypto, because I was just very non-technical, and I thought I was just like resolved to having to learn how to code. And then one time I just wrote a quick article about something that happened that I was watching happen on chain. It was like 400 words, very short, and I just sent it out there into the ether, posted it on some of the subreddits, thinking I was going to get like 50 reads. Ended up getting something like 500, which was like the first good like dopamine hit of content production that I ever got, and that kind of just snowballed into learning that I could just share ideas with good writing. And that turned into a podcast, my first podcast before Bankless, with a Bitcoiner, where him and I would just yell at each other about our disagreements between Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then my current co-host, Ryan, with Bankless, he was listening to that podcast, and then I was also reading Ryan's stuff. So eventually I got tired arguing, and I wanted to find somebody who was more aligned with my ideas, and that was Ryan. And so we started the podcast in 2020.
It's pretty epic because like this even turned into a whole conference as well. Like when was the first permissionless?
The first permissionless was 2022, right after Terra Luna blew up because we had Do Kwon coming as a speaker, and then all of a sudden he was not coming as a speaker. Very quickly thereafter. So it turned into we also had a lot of MakerDAO people, and so the MakerDAO people at permissionless were like saying, "We told you so."
Oh snap! It was like a contentious moment. I feel like, was this like the first official Bankless FUD?
I mean, because we had Do Kwon at the conference.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say so, because it was like we kind of were trying to get everyone, and so and we also had the counter, the opposing side of Terra Luna, and so we were, you got to play both sides. You can't really on stuff like that. You don't really want to pick teams. I've always been very involved with the maker side of things as well. So, so no, I wouldn't say there was too much FUD there. Plenty of FUD in other spots of the market, though.
I mean, it's been a crazy ride if you think about it, where I feel like right now we're at such a stage in the market where it's very clear that the initial direction that people had envisioned for crypto has evolved. The state of the market has matured. We're converging into TradFi. I mean, we had the big news of Farcaster ditching socials. Surprise, surprise, there's not going to be any crypto social. Personally, I really tried to post on there. It was so hard. But yeah, I'm just curious, like, what do you think of, and we spoke about fundamentals earlier. Do you think we're still in a 4-year cycle? Like, have things changed, or is this a new era for crypto?
I think the 4-year cycle is always destined to die. And I don't think there will be any one moment where there's just complete consensus that like, oh yes, clearly the 4-year cycle has died. There will be the 4-year cycle believers who will have enough evidence to say like, oh, the 4-year cycle is still intact. And then there's also going to be sufficient evidence for on the other side of things where people get to say like, oh no, clearly the 4-year cycle is over. I'm on the 4-year cycle is over camp. And that goes, part of the reason is kind of to some degree what you said. There's a lot of, there's a bifurcation in the market at the moment. Like we on Bankless use the metaphor of like, we're going west. We're going off into the frontier. Mm-hmm. This is the Wild West. Well, we've been using that for 5 years now. Like now the East is actually growing quite a lot. Like TradFi in Wall Street on the eastern side of the United States, like they have a very big presence in crypto. But
right,
also you can
Bankless, right? So how do you feel about that?
Obviously, financial institutions need to go bankless too, and so like banking and giving up some of your sovereignty to a bank is more of an idea than it is a specific concrete thing, and so the whole rise. You guys were talking about crypto credit cards and like the rise of neobanks. Like everyone is just using Ethereum as their bank account. And so the rise of neobanks is a very bankless phenomenon, even though those customers are trusting the neobanks. Well, the neobanks itself is still like on net more bankless. It's kind of a nebulous concept, but nonetheless, like there is this half of the market that wants to stay in the Wild West. And then there's the other half of the market, which is like the very polished on-chain equities, compliant ICOs, like all of these TradFis coming in, like Tempo, for example. And I think we're just going to have to live with this like two different worlds in crypto. And again, this was inevitable. This was always the plan. The plan was to always get Wall Street on-chain, and this is just what it looks like.
Right, and it's funny because from one end we have that, and then on the other side we have a mass, campaign for privacy and Zcash, and nobody talks about Monero for some reason. But yeah, like, is privacy like real at the end? Like, do we really have a shot? I feel like it's too late, anyways. And if you really
with AI scanning the blockchain and everything, like, is this actually
right? And the thing is,
possible?
If you're going to be using that, you're going to put yourself at risk. You're better in some cases, like for normies like us, unless you're an entity and so on. Before retail, like if you're going to start using these privacy protocol, like you're putting yourself, it's like a red flag. Like, why do you need that level of privacy when you could just like hide in the crowds? That's just like my personal point of view. And I know I know you had the founder of Proton as well on the show recently, and I've listened to the discussion. I thought it was really interesting. To me personally, and I used to be very idealistic in that sense, and I just feel it's a lost battle that would make me feel so powerless because it's a bit late. And yeah.
Yes, I do agree with you that in 2025, I wish we had more access to like consumer privacy on chain. There are things like Railgun, which is pretty good, and I'm optimistic that Aztec can really shift the Overton window. Like, the worst case scenario is that we get privacy through using some of these institutions, and so the people that also want privacy are institutions. People coming on chain, like Tempo, is going to have to put privacy on chain because if they want businesses to transfer, millions and millions of dollars of deals, those businesses don't want to disclose who they're doing business with. And so
that makes total sense.
That makes total sense. And so at the very least, like once the businesses, institutions negotiate with the nation state for privacy, well, then user accounts will be able to get privacy with those institutions. But I think to your point, like, do we as individuals get to have privacy on our own, or do we have to use an institution to access privacy? Those are two different kinds of privacy, right? One is the cypherpunk side of things, the Aztec side of things, and then the other one is more or less kind of what we have today. I was talking to Stephen Goldfeder from Arbitrum, asking him at DevConnect, asking him about like what is he doing to bend the Arbitrum Orbit tech stack to fit the needs of institutions. And his answer was like, oh, well, they are looking for a very specific kind of privacy, a version of privacy that looks kind of like your bank account, where we all have bank accounts. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, I still have to write a check to my landlord. And you guys can't see my bank account, but the bank can see my account. And there is bank to user transparency, because that's just how it works. And they are building that. They are building customizable Arbitrum Orbit tech stack for that level of privacy, that format of privacy. And so we do know that there is privacy being built. Whether it's the privacy that we want as individuals is still up in the air.
Why do you think people talk so much about Zcash and not Monero?
Because Zcash does have a modicum of compliance. And so you can generate like a proof, a hash, so you can disclose your transaction to your accountant or to the IRS or to the nation state to make them happy, whereas Monero, you can't do that. And so like the hybrid unshielded versus shielded address just works well with the traditional financial system, where like Monero is just like straight hardcore cypherpunk middle finger privacy, which is like, it makes it harder to justify to the nation state that this is good, because it's just antagonistic to everything that they want, even though it is privacy preserving to individuals.
Right.
I saw this cut of Andrew Tate over the weekend, basically kind of
Is that your
talking
kind of
about
content, Elizabeth?
No.
You subscribe to
It's like,
Andrew Tate clips?
I'm gonna put the finger on the Thread Guy show. He brought up this clip. Andrew Tate was basically saying, "Oh, this, why do people care about privacy? Because banks will just be able to, or the government will just be able to like scan the blockchain, see what people are sending, and regardless, as long as they know you've sent something, you might have the ability to send Bitcoin, but they can still lock you up. At the end of the day, like the government will always still have like physical power over what people are doing, as long as they can just see, okay, you sent something, you know, and then you won't be able to, like, from prison cell. So I'm like, okay, what's like the core use case of privacy in this case? Is it just shielding from the government?
I think, I mean, this is a very broad philosophical question of just like, why do individuals need privacy? And my basic answer is just like, individuals having access to privacy is a fundamental check on power. And one of the cool things about cryptography is eventually cryptography will get so good that we will have the technology to have all the privacy that we will ever need, no matter what. Like the arc of cryptography goes and bends towards being very powerful and very discreet and, you know, very low intensiveness, so that you can access full-scale cryptography on your phone. Eventually that will happen. By 2040, we will all have like weapons-grade cryptography accessible on our hardware, on our local hardware. And so we will be able, whether we have the technology or not is not up for debate. We're getting it. The big question is, can we get it soon enough to make it a societal norm before the nation state comes with their ban hammer and says, like, you can or cannot do this? And I mean, like, you talk to Zuko. You should have Zuko on, and he will give you like the argument as to like why the micro erosions of privacy ultimately leads to like an authoritarian state apparatus that all of a sudden, like, there are cameras in your homes looking at what you should do to make sure like you're not having, you know, bad thoughts about the state. And so like the idea is that like
ChatGPT when you know, tell them you had a bad day.
yeah, I'm sure like the base use of like what I would use privacy for today is like pretty innocuous, but like I still want the right. Like, as an American, we believe in freedom, we believe in the sovereignty of the individual, and that ironically, sadly, our privacy is actually not in the Constitution. There's not any really amendment that gives individuals the right to privacy, but it does seem philosophically aligned with Americans.
But like, aren't you so happy, or at least for me, I'm speaking for myself, like when you get targeted by the great ads, that's like, yeah, this is actually what I want. And then you go and buy it and you're happy. I'm so torn because
I do appreciate a good Instagram ad.
You know what I mean? It's like, I love privacy, but I like to get good recommendations on stuff to buy online.
Yeah, but you're also not going to go full privacy off grid like cypherpunk hardcore. Like selective privacy, the choice to have privacy, I think is pretty important.
Yeah, I'm not at that stage. You know, I don't really have that much to hide, to be honest. So yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, I feel like I would definitely be one of the lazier people to opt for convenience.
I think privacy is
over
mostly
privacy.
a UX thing than it is a technology thing.
Yeah, truly. No, okay, but maybe we should bubble up because I know we're gonna come to time in like probably 20 minutes. So, we brought you on today, especially because we would love to hear your hot takes for the new year. You know, there's so many. I feel like of anyone, you probably have one of the best broad views about what's happening across the Web3 ecosystem. You know, you and Ryan are always like chatting with some of the most brilliant people in the space. And have, you know, come up with your own. You've done your own shows in the past covering, you know, what are your predictions for the new year. And so I just wanted to like kind of wedge into that and see if you could bring us some predictions that you've kind of come up with for yourself in the next year. What it's, maybe we start with number 5. Let's. I
was about to ask. Do you want me to go 5 to 1 or 1 to 5?
Yeah, let's do 5 to 1.
Let's
5
do
to
it.
1. All right. You guys ready for number 5?
Yes.
Quantum continues to crescendo as a societal issue is my 5th prediction. This is the thing that I don't think will be that loud, but if you pay attention to it, you'll kind of see it coming. There is a left curve investment thesis I have around quantum of, as we approach like a sufficiently sophisticated quantum tech stack where like quantum actually is like doing the thing that it promises to do, we start to get something kind of like Y2K. Y2K was very societally relevant because it was so acute. Like on January 1st of 2000, everything blows up. And we don't quite have that with quantum, but we do have the notion of just like, once we have a quantum computer, everything blows up. And it's not just in crypto. crypto has to deal with it ahead of the curve, but there will be tons of pockets of the internet that just break because of quantum. And so the left curve thesis is like, because this is such a loud thing, quantum stocks, quantum whatever, will I think be actually a pretty good investment category just because of how societally loud it will be. Whether or not it's like a good, sound financial investment from like the economics or the fundamentals, I'm kind of taking
the mind share.
It's a mind share, yeah. It's
mind
like a
share
narrative
equity
thing, yeah.
Okay.
And so
okay.
I don't think that happens in 2026 because we still need a couple years, but nonetheless, we will start to see quantum weaknesses start to become pretty loud as like a social topic.
Is it gonna come steal your Bitcoin? Yeah,
Not my
people.
Bitcoin.
Not your Bitcoin, of course, but you know how people are saying once like quantum computing is a threat to everybody's holdings.
Yes. I mean, it's almost a sure thing because we know that there are dead Bitcoins out there. And we also know that quantum will be able to access those dead Bitcoins. And so I'm kind of following Nick Carter's thought process here is like either those Bitcoins end up in the hands of China or they end up in the hands of the United States. But like the government apparatus needs to work with their local quantum tech sector to steal the Bitcoins before the other nation state steals the Bitcoins.
Oh my god!
Can you like break
Other
down
Mongox Bitcoin stealing?
like high school level? Like what is quantum thesis? Like people that it's kind of new for them.
Yeah, I wish I was that smart. Breaking it down to simple terms is difficult. The way that I kind of explain quantum computing is like it's not just faster classical computing. Like, so when we have our normal computers and our phones and just classical computing with classical chips, like we're going from like a Model T Ford to, you know, a Toyota to a Ferrari, depending on how good at computing we are. Like as Moore's law increases, we're going faster. Quantum computing doesn't do that. It's like instead of going and being a faster car, it's like actually we now we have a boat. We can actually compute in a different direction across a design space, a computational space that we never